now live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to all members of the public who are watching this Cabinet meeting via the East Suffolk YouTube channel. For those of us in the conference room, there is no fire alarm test planned, so should the fire alarm sound, it will be for real. In the event of a fire, please follow the instructions that will be issued to you and congregate to the right outside the far end of the car park. Exempt and confidential items. In exceptional circumstances, the Council may, by law, exclude members of the public from all or part of an executive decision-making meeting. We have two exempt items on the agenda this evening. Lorraine, have you received any apologies?
We have apologies from the leader, Councillor Topping, and from Councillor Sally Noble.
Okay, and we believe Councillor Daly is on his way. Declarations of interest. Have Cabinet members any declarations of interest? No? Okay, thank you. Announcements. Do any Cabinet members have any announcements? No. Minutes. We have one set of minutes to approve from the Cabinet meeting held on the 2nd of June 2026. Are we in agreement to accept them as a correct record? Can I have a mover and a seconder? So Councillor Langdon-Morris and Councillor Candy. All show of hands, all those in favour? So unanimous. Referrals, item 5, referrals from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I would like to invite Councillor Jepson, who I believe is online, who chaired the last Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting, to introduce the committee review of the LGR position statement, so Local Government Reorganisation position statement. Councillor Jepson, over to you. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Paul, and good evening, everyone. Sorry, I'll need to get to let me just turn my video on. Matters and there we go. I'm trying to put the video on, Paul, but it doesn't seem to want to let me. So
I think we'll just have to remember how handsome you are and listen to you instead.
It will certainly not turn a few stomachs if it's not. You can't see me, so there we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the damn document, Paul. It's here somewhere. I have it. It's just rather a large document. Here we go. Are you still? Can you still hear me, Paul?
We can still hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got you back. So members would have seen the minutes of the meeting. It's quite a comprehensive statement, Paul. Do you want? I don't see the point in reading it all because there's a number of clear points. But we found that it was very useful to have Caroline with us when we asked about LGR and some of the issues that we were raising with her, and we managed to keep it primarily to the structural changes that were likely to have an impact on ourselves. So you'll see from the document, which starts on page 22 of the main document, the main points I think that I'm going to go straight down to that we resolved, that the information on the LGR work streams, how council had achieved the budget surplus of 1 point. No, hang on, that's not right. Paul, I had a document earlier and I can't find the resolutions, which is rather embarrassing.
We can possibly help you there if you would like, if we just can read out the recommendations.
Yes,
so everyone's aware. Yeah. So Lorraine, are you in a position to read them out, or is it literally this statement here? Yeah. Okay. So what I've got in front of me then, Mark, is the committee recommendation to the Cabinet is, having considered the report and comments from the Leader of the Council and officers, the committee was particularly concerned at the short timescale for delivering LGR by the deadline of the 1st of April 2028 and the impact the preparatory work would was having on officers and members. In light of these concerns, it was agreed to recommend to Cabinet that they consider asking government for additional resources and potentially an extension of time to support the implementation of LGR in Suffolk. So I think that was it. I think unless you wanted to clarify any of that or add anything, then we.
No, I'd read them earlier. I just perhaps I'm trying to multitask. So but the bits I saw were not with those recommendations. I'd read them earlier on today, and they were what we wanted to send back to Cabinet. Now, I think we recognised that there was going to be challenges with that because the Cabinet or the government might say you're not getting any more money and you're not getting any more time. But the presentation from Caroline and the other senior officers on the day of overview and scrutiny was the concern that it from all the members that it was, I think we all appreciated it, that it's being pushed through very quickly and we're not sure that we're going to get the results that we really need. Okay. So that's where we were.
So I think what I just read out sort of captures the essence of that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or shall we have some discussion amongst Cabinet? And obviously we can come back to you with questions and you can add some comments yourself depending on how the discussion in Cabinet goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. In which case then, Cabinet, are there any thoughts or any questions for Councillor Jepson? No? Councillor Candy.
Thank you very much. I think it's fine, but LGR is so I'm going to say up in the air, down in the dumps. It's really hard to make a definitive, we're going to go this way, we're going to go that way. I think we just have to proceed in the way that we are going and be ready to be eternally flexible should anything change. It seems impossible to discuss anything else at the moment.
Okay. Any other thoughts or any questions for Councillor Jepson?
Paul,
yes,
can I?
Yes, go on, Mark. Yes, please.
Can I come back on that one? I hear what Councillor Candy was saying, but I think part of our concerns were, and accepting there's a judicial review, but the general consensus from the leader and the officers was that unitary will take place. It's going to happen. And that there was a recognition at the scrutiny meeting how hard everybody's working to try and achieve what we need to achieve. But with all the other work streams that there were, that this was a very hard burden on the officers and members. And hence that's why that decision was made, accepting it's a big ask. Yeah. But I think that we have to accept that the chances are it will take place, even with the judicial review. So it was that we at least tried to have some power in our hands rather than just waiting to see what is going to be done to us rather than what we can do for ourselves.
Sure. Okay. My personal views on this are, I'm completely sympathetic to the point. You know, it is a challenge to get this done in the timescales, and clearly more time, more money would be welcome. It was also utterly futile asking because we're not going to get more time and more money. So, yeah. Given that we want to make our communications with government ones where we've got a decent chance of getting things, and if we ask for everything, we just become serial complainers. Whereas if we're more measured and we ask for quite focused things, we've got more chance of cutting through with them. So personally, whilst I sympathise, I couldn't support us actually taking that position for that reason. And then a more political reason is obviously we do have the county council going through a judicial review. I think the will of our council, with a very, very strong majority, is that the decision's made. We need to get on with it. I think certainly that's the public, what I've heard publicly from the previous administration of the county council, who obviously didn't get their preferred option in terms of unitary councils, yet they're supporting getting on with it. So I would be uncomfortable with the message it sends at this point in time if we started asking for delays or more money. So whilst I'm repeating myself a little bit, whilst I'm sympathetic and obviously appreciate the work of the scrutiny committee looking at what's involved, identifying, in terms of more detail here, identifying all the challenges that we're going to face in order to implement this. Of course, not just ourselves, all the other councils in Suffolk working together on this. I personally wouldn't support the recommendation. Happy for you to suggest that might not be right, Mark, if you want to.
Yeah, I certainly, we don't want to stop anything or delay anything, Paul. I mean, is there anything that Cabinet may want to put in place to help with the resilience of the officers? Because this is more about resilience to the officers in making sure that we get what we need to get done properly, rather than it feels very rushed. So if the officers were to say, actually, a couple of consultants, we need to ask them, and it wasn't clear on the day, we didn't go into that detail about what they would like, but I think there was just this recognition from scrutiny that we're pushing our officers to the limit, and is there any resilience that can be offered in support of them?
Sure.
So if understanding that we may not want to go to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk across you. If you would still have more to say, Mark, so please finish. Have we lost him? Oh. Was going to invite the Chief Exec to maybe say a few words, because the view on what officers need is probably best coming from the Chief Executive, but it'd be good if Mark was on to hear it. I think, given we don't know when he's going to come back, do you want to say a few words?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can just, I can talk a little bit about the mitigation sort of like that we're putting in place around the LGR work. I mean, I think firstly the progress is ongoing, and I think even at the extraordinary cabinet meeting held at the county council, the leader of the county council said that the work wouldn't stop despite the judicial review, and we're certainly seeing very positive engagement from county council officers, and we are bringing in extra resources. So, for example, this week, Lizanne Eddy started as the programme director for LGR, so a dedicated programme director, so that we're not kind of like filling that space, kind of like from officers from the system. In terms of finances, we are getting £2.7 million from government, 900,000 for each unitary to go towards the transition costs. Now, it won't cover all of the transition costs, but that is quite a significant amount of money to cover bringing in some extra capacity. And all of the councils are looking at maybe funding that have been earmarked for transformation over the next couple of years, and how that might be funded, how that might support LGR. And there's a meeting on the 23rd of July with the Section 151 officers to talk about how that work is, how that money might be used. I mean, in terms of pushing the date back, I think government are unlikely to do that. In fact, we're expecting more decisions this week. We're expecting the decisions for the rest of the country to be announced either tomorrow or Thursday. So I think that will give that, and I am assuming that those decisions have been checked with anybody who may be standing for the Labour leadership in the coming weeks. So again, that might give you an indication of government's position on that. The thing that we are talking to the government about is a structural change order for Suffolk, which is the legislation, and we understand that we will get a draft of the structural change order relatively quickly, which will again underpin sort of like commitment to it. And government, the officials have also put in place a new arrangement called an implementation forum, where they'll meet with all of the implementation board on a monthly basis. So I think we do have a channel into government for giving them feedback on. I think the issue isn't necessarily about slipping the time or additional resources. It's being responsive on the things that they need to do to enable us to progress with LGR. So it's answers to questions and structural change orders and that kind of thing. And then I think, a couple of things internally. It is a corporate risk. On our risk register, we talk about it at CLT, corporate leadership team, on a regular basis about the mitigation that we have in place. We will have to probably have some conversations about how far we're going to get with certain projects before the LGR deadline. And we've managed to release people to lead on work streams and to take part in work streams relatively successfully to date. People have been absolutely fantastic. The officers have been great in doing that. And we're on target with everything that we set in terms of delivering the discovery phase of the work by the end of July. So we'll get into design from September. So generally the process is going well. We're managing that risk, but as we get closer to vesting day, that would would increase additional pressure. The other thing is we've commissioned some support for staff. So we've just put 200 plus managers through a session on managing change and leading their teams through change. And we've had feedback on that today about how successful that was and how positive our managers received that and had some ideas for some more things they'd like to do. So we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. I had any joy with Councillor Jepson? No, yeah, he is. Mark, we lost you then. I
somebody pulled the plug on me.
Oh, we can see you again.
Yeah.
Right, I did ask the Chief Executive to respond to your question about the impact on officers and so on, which I don't know how much of that you caught to.
Most of it, and I think that was reassuring, Paul, because it's more about scrutiny. Wanted the resilience and support for the officers, but from what Chris said, I think he's covered most of that anyway. But thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions or comments from Cabinet before I throw it open to other councillors? No, it doesn't like it. Councillor Ashton, anything you want to ask or say? No? No? Have we got anybody else online? Councillor Peter, good evening. Anything you want to say or ask?
Yeah, good evening, Paul. No, nothing on this particular one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In which case, let me just be clear. So in terms of what we need to vote on, I guess it's about our position on the recommendation, isn't it? Whether to accept the recommendation, yeah. So I'm just read it again so councillors are clear. So the committee's recommendation to us was, having considered the report and comments from the leader of the council and officers, the committee was particularly concerned at the short timescale for delivering LGR by the deadline of the 1st of April 2028 and the impact the priority work was having on officers and members. In light of these concerns, it was agreed to recommend to Cabinet that they consider asking government for additional resources and potentially an extension of time to support the implementation of LGR in Suffolk. So whilst respecting the advice and the sentiment behind the advice, I think for the reasons I've laid out, I'd like to propose that we don't accept that recommendation, but obviously we do take note of what scrutiny have looked at and the detail of what they considered in their committee session. So my recommendation is that we don't accept that advice. Can I have a seconder? So Councillor Packard, is there any debate about that specifically, or are you happy with going straight to a vote? Okay, it looks like no debate. So all those in favour of that recommendation then? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Jepson, and pass that on to Councillor Deacon as well for the work of scrutiny. We continue to value it highly as an administration. It's an important part of what this council does and how we're held to account. So thank you for that. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Item 6, Thorpe Nest rock removal options. I would like to invite Councillor Packard, Cabinet Member with responsibility for planning and coastal management, to introduce the report. So over to you, Councillor Packard.
This report provides a summary of actions undertaken at Thorpe Nest to date in relation to the recent coastal erosion and highlights information around the rock revetment on the beach and the current impacts associated with this structure. The rock, placed on the frontage to slow erosion at North End Avenue, is now an isolated defence. The rock is also becoming a public safety issue, as despite beach closures and restricted access to the area, the public are accessing the rocks, which are no longer stable. With advice from independent coastal engineering specialist Moffat and Nicol, it is recommended that the rock is moved from its current location to minimise any effects it may have on adjacent road and properties and allow sediments to move freely along the frontage. As the council needs to move the rock before the winter weather, Any work needs to start in the early autumn, meaning engaging contractors through a tender process over the summer. Given the recent erosion along the frontage, it's understandable that requests have been made to relocate the rock in front of some of their properties. However, this requires additional consents and permissions which take time to procure. This paper seeks approval for any such relocation of the rocks, should any community scheme be later deemed appropriate. In consideration of any relocation, and following the recent investment by East Suffolk Council of £300,000 in a rock bank solution to provide short-term urgent works for up to 24 homes at flood and erosion risk, the council will have to consider best value in relation to the funds available and decide the most cost-effective option that would assist in resolving the current erosion and public health and safety risks, and the importance of removing the rocks from the beach as soon as possible. Finally, I draw Cabinet's attention to the letter from the Save Thorpeness Community Group and the Thorpeness Community Interest Company supporting the removal of the rock from its current position and seeking East Suffolk Council support that the rock be available for reuse to the community as part of the ongoing defence design options they are working. So, moving to the recommendations. It is recommended that Cabinet 1 supports the removal of the whole of the rock revetment structure from the beach to a suitable local stockpile, that's option 2A and 2B, which will assist with reducing the erosion rate to North End Avenue during the 2026-2027 winter season and beyond. Supports the potential reuse of the rock being developed as a community-led approach, subject to necessary consents and permissions being in place, and that such works are funded privately. If the necessary funding, permits and permissions are not in place by August 2026, the rock shall be removed from the beach prior to the 2026-27 winter season. 3. Approves a supplementary revenue budget of up to £500,000 to remove and stockpile the rock option 2A, 2B, and to be funded as detailed in paragraph 4.7. 4. Delegates authority to the Strategic Director in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Planning and Coastal Management and the Head of Legal and Democratic Services to enter into any required legal agreements with landowners to access the site from North End Avenue to remove the rocks from the beach. Enter into any agreements with landowner, Suffolk County Council, in relation to the beach ownership. Enter into any legal agreement with landowners regarding private schemes or rock removal, relocation or reuse. Enter into any lease or land rental agreement with relevant landowner for a local stockpile location. Award contract with supply chain following completion of appropriate tendering process.
Thank you. Quite lengthy recommendations there, so thank you for getting through those. Can I just also, do I ask for a seconder at this point, or do we have debate first? We should ask for a seconder. Yes, so is anybody, any councillors wish to second those proposals? Councillor Candy, thank you. Any questions or debate from Cabinet? Yeah, Councillor Langdon-Morris.
Yes, I've got quite a few, but I mean, I know that there's an £18 million fund that's available. I think it's stretching from Yorkshire down to Essex and has to be shared. Whether there's an opportunity to facilitate funding from that source, because we don't have this budgeted, and this will have to come from reserves. That's the first thing, and that would be great if that was the case. I read the letter and I've read the documentation. I'd like to congratulate our officers, and I definitely think that this is an example for a case study for the future of how to engage with communities and residents as government officials, because this is not going to be the last time. This is going to happen more in the future, and that's a point I'd just like to point out. I think that we need MPs' support. As a district councillor, that this is more strategic than just one location. I support this, and I think that we have to do this, but this is going to happen again, and I think we do need our MPs to support us, especially as LGR and devolution approach, and that the approaches to our coastline are more strategic. I see it's moving at pace. It's got to be speed rather than haste. This is a lot of money, and this could happen again and again and again with finances that we don't have. I noticed that we have a consulting report, and I noticed that there are a lot of consulting reports along our coastline. It's just the point being made again about this is one particular example, and it's happening in many coastal areas, and how we can get value for money in the future. There's a variance in the report, 300 to 500,000. That's quite a variance. So it could be 300, it could be 500,000. Yeah, that's just reading it through. I definitely support it, but finding the money, I'd prefer us to find central government resources, not local district council resources. Thanks.
I'd just like to take you up on the 500,000. Really is we don't want to go to reserves, and there are things that we're doing. There's a regional fund that we hope we'll get a decision on this weekend, this Friday, I think it is, which will give us £400,000 towards various adaptations. The other thing is we, as a coastal management team, we have £330,000 in reserve that we haven't used this year, and we'd like you to think about carrying that forward to next year against this. And I think the object for the coastal management team is that 500,000. It doesn't come from reserves, that we find monies, and there are various options. The government does have various options, but the Environment Agency is absolutely firm. We're not allowed to use it for rocks, so we have to get around that. But there are funds available, and we think we can mitigate that 500,000. That is just a backstop for us.
Thanks, Councillor Packard. I'm looking at the Chief Finance Officer because we've been talking about budgets, so that's a relief. I do hope we manage to source this. But I still, that point about strategic funding for coastal resilience is really important. Thanks.
Are there any other questions from Councillor Whitelock?
Yes, there's no doubt coastal management is hugely complicated and deeply distressing for anybody that finds themselves in the position of losing their home or any sort of threat to their home. And it's been particularly difficult in Thorpe Ness. There's been a number of houses that have had to be demolished, and it's caused great distress to residents. On the rocks, I remember those rocks going in. I don't think it was that long ago. Does anybody have a date for when they were installed?
It was 2021.
So 5 years ago, we put those rocks in, if my maths is correct.
Could we just check that we've got the date right there? 2022, Chair.
September 20.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
September 22, I'm told.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay, and my understanding, just from my memory, is that it was both private funding and East Suffolk funding. And it's only been 4 years that before we're spending another £500,000 to take them out again. So what I really want to flag up is, let's not find ourselves in this position again, because as Councillor Langdon Morris says, we can't keep going to our reserves to try and find money for this sort of project. And the other thing I want to ask is, could you explain to me the deadline, why this has to be done right now? Because the letter from the Save Thorpeness and the Thorpeness Community Interest Company asked for only one movement of the rocks, which I can understand because of course that's going to be cheaper rather than moving them to a location then moving them again. And then asked for the rocks to be used to protect Thorpeness and the current protections we've got in place. What is the reason for not holding off for the engineers' reports and the surveys, etc., that would mean that we can do this? Thank you.
Yeah, if I come to the last point first, you know, we've been advised, the Thorpeness group have been advised that the rocks have to move. And if we don't do it before the winter season, it already the beach, the land behind the rocks has all fallen away. So the rocks are just sitting there on their own. And there's a danger if somebody happens to go by and the rock falls on them, you know, that's a real hazard. So we have to move it. And we're saying August, and you know that gives us time to get contracts, you know, quotations and contracts. And so, if the Thorpeness group can come up with a plan, and they're already quite along the way, with getting a plan, you know, there's a chance we don't have to take them and store them and then put them back. But you know, in the meantime, we have to move them. What was your first comment was?
Well, it was really around, well, there was the comment around, was it a good idea to put the rocks in the first place 4 years ago? And the second comment was, so you've answered the question about deadline. Yes, so the problem from what you're saying is that we need to move the rocks before the winter, and the any plan or engineering for the community's protection that's already gone in, that has to be prepared in good time for that deadline. I understand that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And, you know, there isn't a lot of time. You know,
Yeah.
August is almost upon us, but they are quite a long way along the way, and it's possible that they could come up with something, and that's what we're allowing for in this recommendation.
If you, okay, I wouldn't mind just clarifying this. August is next month. It's saying the fact that you're saying that they're quite a long way along this road means that if it was September, they might actually get there, but we will have taken the decision away from them, and we won't have the option to we're going to move the rocks and then move them again. So I just wanted to understand what, you know, we can approve this today, but what actually happens after then in terms of the timescales? What's the actual final point at which point we can't implement a scheme that others might be interested in because it's too late? Because it doesn't feel like it's August. So if we get a bit of clarity, you might want to refer to officers, just get
You know, there's the 1st of August and there's the 30th of August. So
yeah, no,
you know,
I don't mean that. I mean, it might be worth referring to your officers.
Thank you, Mark. So just to clarify the points that are being asked there about the timeline, there are 2 reasons why we need to take the rock off the beach. Mark set out really clearly the issue of health and safety. The other one is the fact that it's causing an embayment, and that's potentially exacerbating erosion, which we don't want to be the outcome, because if it continues to erode, it impacts on the adjacent properties, and that's our liability because they're our rocks. And that's why we had the report done. The second point about when do we have to make a decision, our engineering team need to remove the rocks before we get into winter working, when we get narrow working windows. So ideally we need to be operating on the beach around September, October time to remove the rock, because it will take a couple of weeks to do that. The challenge we have is getting a contractor in place in time to obviously be able to then take forward the work. So we do have some flexibility that if we can work in parallel with our contractor looking at what they might do and the community continuing to develop their project, then we might have a bit more time. But we do have to keep bearing in mind that working with a contractor and reaching a point at which they can get out onto the beach in the working windows that we have. We have had stormy weather in September. We've actually had stormy weather in August. So we just have to keep being alive to the fact that we've got to be able to operate safely and get the material off the beach in good time. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible with that timeline.
Okay, thank you. I think I stopped Councillor Whitelock. Someone else, Councillor Whitelock, and I'll come to you, Councillor Candy. So, Councillor Whitelock, you were trying to ask something when I interrupted you.
Yes, the last time I asked this in a briefing, somebody laughed. It's fair enough, but I just hope that the place that the rocks go, I know they're enormous, is secure, because it would be awful to go back to get them, to put them somewhere on that beach and find that they had gone. So if I can just flag that up for our notes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do our very best to keep them safe.
Okay, Councillor Candy.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to just follow up on Councillor Whitelock's comment about short-termism and spending money only for a few years down or months later. So if we're moving the rocks to a very secure place only to move them again the next season, it just seems bizarre that we can't be a little bit more flexible and hold off the working with the engineers, etc., so that we can help and work together with the Thorpenest CIC. It might then save us quite a lot of money. I feel the resolution is too unflexible or inflexible.
Okay, I mean, that was the thing, that was the question I asked and the clarification we got, you know, in terms of the urgency. So it is partly health and safety and partly the fact that the rocks remaining there is itself contributing to.
Somewhere where they could be helpful.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I do wonder, it might be worth just restating that. I don't know if Councillor Packard or the officers.
You can't just move the rocks. You know, you have to get permissions and things like that on the beach, and that's what the people in Thorpenest are trying to get to. You know, getting the permissions to be on the beach, but we can't put them on the beach without permission. Nobody can.
Could I just add that the council owns the rock, it owns the value of the rock, and in moving the rock to a secondary location, it's available for the community to then use the rock in the future. That doesn't necessarily mean that the council pays for the rock to be moved and placed. That is something that the Thorpenest KIC and community group are considering, will need to consider the cost of. And obviously there will be an opportunity for members to decide if they want to make a contribution or not, in kind or in any other way. That would be a second piece of work that we would do with you. But I think the assumption that it has to be paid to be moved again is not necessarily on the council. That's what I wanted to be really clear about, because it's a private project that's coming forward. So they would be getting the value of the rock. They might have to pay for it to be moved.
Any further questions or debate from Cabinet? Councillor Langdon Morris.
To Karen, just a question. When we're talking about private projects, are these underpinned by good science and by strategic and institutional support? It can't be private projects for coastal resilience, in my view. It has to be coming from government, because this is highly complicated. You know that. And stopping the sea is not the easiest thing on the planet.
Yeah, I'll defer to Karen Thomas on that one.
Okay. In the last 20 to 30 years that I've been working on the coast, I would say that there has been investment in the coast in traditional flood defence schemes. I think in the last 25 years, we've probably reached the point at which the majority of traditional schemes that are going to be funded have been funded. There is an emerging funding challenge with the new funding policy, and we are doing some strategic work around the fact that we don't think the coast is coming out particularly well. We also have the disadvantage that most of our coastal schemes cost more than other types of project because of the environment that they are in. Your point about public and community-led schemes, I think probably about 10 10 years ago, as with the estuary strategies and the estuary plans, we've seen that the unaffordability of the government funding to do particularly rural estuary walls, and some of our coastal communities are now experiencing the same thing, means increasingly that government organisations are being asked to step away because community groups feel that they might be able to have a go and do it themselves. Realistically, I think community groups have often felt that they can do it cheaper and more effectively. I think the biggest challenge that we've seen, though, is the increased cost of everything, plus the fact that they are not exempt from all the consents and licensing processes that we still have to go through, means that nothing can get done quickly, and there is always this additional cost. And then finally, in relation to the points about why did we put the ROC in a few years ago, the ROC went in a few years ago as part of an emergency response because it was largely funded by an individual. And there was always a view that the ROC would need to be removed, and that was in our legal agreement with the individual. However, at the same time, the community was still pursuing the hope that they would be able to fund a ROC scheme along the whole frontage. And so in a way, the initial ROC that went in was supposed to be the northern end of our longest project. So there was supposed to be a continuation of that, provided the community could demonstrate that they weren't going to have any wider impacts on the coast. And so last year, when the community came forward and put forward a proposal that didn't include an environmental impact assessment and didn't conclusively say they couldn't have an impact on the adjacent properties, we said, well, you're still going to need to do that work. And then, of course, we've had the recent storm. So the last thing I'd like to say is that we don't want to see these small scale private projects coming forward. I think that we have explored those now. We have tried our best to support communities every step of the way with what is a new and emerging risk. Sorry, it's not new, but I think it's impacting people in a new way. And I think that the ROC that we have, if you like, supported at places like Papefield and Thorpeness has done a job. But if nothing else, it's shown us that that kind of intervention probably doesn't work. And therefore, hopefully other communities now will see that that's not necessarily an option. And we have other things that we have to explore with those communities now about rollback, relocation and adaptation, because ROC in small amounts doesn't really conclude the problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. That's a good answer.
Okay, any Councillor Whitelock?
Yeah, I'll just make one last comment. I've worked with the coastal team and with the cabinet member for coastal management, and I must say they are a great team. They work really hard, and I am grateful to the way they have respected and advised my residents.
Thank you. And thank you to the officers as well. If there's nothing else from cabinet, I will move to officers. Councillors in the room. Councillor Ashdown.
Yes, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Mark. I appreciate everything you're doing for this. However, we know we're now going to start looking at other areas, one of them being mine, and concerns there, are we going to have the funding to be able to do with any work that needs to be done urgently in those sort of areas? That's a very good question. You know, let's hope we don't have to, but yeah, if things need to be done, I mean, as I've said, there are funds available. Depends what it is we're going to do. But we don't want to be using reserves. So, you know, we'll have to do it within our budgeted limits or with any help we can get from the Environment Agency or anybody else.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors online? Is that so we've got, I think, Mark and Peter. Start with Councillor Byatt.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Mark, for the feedback, and also just deferring to Karen's long-term knowledge, particularly, you know, with the Resilient Coast project. Without sounding flippant, I would like to offer safe storage for those rocks at Pakefield, if you so wish, because as we know that there are still issues here. I'm working with a community group, and also I sit on the Bennica flood project board, trying to get it back. We do know that there are the scientific problems with what happens behind rocks when there's not enough of them, but really it's to say, you know, keeping those rocks, keeping them somewhere safe for further use. And please don't let anybody suggest that we crush them, as has been suggested it's going to be possibly done at Bennica. We're trying to put their minds off, but a safe location, certainly. And as Councillor Whitlock said, you know, somewhere safe where they can't actually also present a danger to people getting on site, but always bidding for something for Pakefield. I'm sorry to be so parochial, and I get a bit boring with it, but I know that our teams are working really hard here as well. But Thorpeness had to necessarily take priority. But thanks for all the work on that.
Yeah, what I'd say, Councillor Byrne, is we're going up and down the coast every week looking at where the erosion is happening, and we're well aware of Pakefield, and we do pay attention to it. Where the rocks will be, I think probably at the moment we're looking at local to Thorpeness, but those are our rocks. They're worth a lot of money. We'll try and keep them as safe as we can, and if they need to be used in Pakefield, then so be it.
Thank you very much. Can I just flag up early, the group here, the community group, are considering holding a concert, and they're going to call it Pakefield Rocks to raise funds.
Title.
Indeed. Thank you, Councillor Byatt. I think we've got Councillor Jepson also wishing to ask a question. So over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Karen. I thought that was a really comprehensive answer and gave a lot of useful background as well as to where we are. And of course, the problems are that the residents in these areas, it must be horrendous for them to try and think whether they're going to lose their house or not. I don't think Mark, Councillor Packard, meant it as it perhaps came out. I just want to get reassurance. I think Mark said we don't want rocks falling on people, suggesting there may be a health and safety issue. I'm sure there isn't, but can Councillor Packard just reassure us that there are no health and safety issues of where the rocks are at the moment? Thank you, Paul.
I think what I would say is that there are health and safety issues, because we're trying to keep people off the beach, off that part of the beach, but people will go there, unfortunately, and those rocks are now sitting on their own. It's unlikely, but it is a health and safety risk now, which is one of the reasons we need to do something, because behind the rocks, it's all been eroded away, so they're just standing like a pyramid now. So it is a real issue, and people are wandering along that beach. We can't, we try and stop them, we warn them, we do everything we possibly can, but people will do what they want to do.
Thank you. Any further questions or any other discussion? Doesn't sound like it. I'm just going to summarise my understanding of this to sort of bring it into sharp focus for us. I think we've been advised that there is an immediate health and safety issue, which you just talked about. The rocks remaining where they are contributing to issues of coastal erosion, not preventing them. So there's an urgency there. Yeah. We're being asked to approve up to £500,000, but with this potential other sources of funding, which may well mean the cost to the council is lower. We've heard assurances that we will attempt to accommodate the time frame of the community who are attempting to obviously find a different location for the rock, so it only gets moved once. We'll be as flexible as we can, but the two things I said at the start are the thing that are driving the timescales, and they're not really negotiable in this situation. I think I've got the main points. I'm clear there's a recommendation. So that is in essence why this needs approving now, and what the financial implication might be, although hopefully it will be less for the council. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, in which case, where have we got to? I'll just make sure. So I need to invite the seconder to speak, and it's such a long time ago, I can't even remember. I think it was Councillor Candy. Would you like to speak, Councillor Candy?
I think I already have. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councillor Packard, anything you want to say before we vote?
No, I think we've had a good discussion. It's a difficult issue, and we've tried to be as open as we can, and we do have a good relationship with the people in Thorpeness who are trying to protect themselves. So I would recommend that we agree to this recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, the vote then. All those in favour? Yes, I think we're unanimous. Thank you very much to Karen and the rest of the officers for your work here. Difficult situation, and you've been doing a lot for the people of Thorpeness and for this council over the last few months, so thank you. Okay, moving on. I think we're on item 7. Housing policies requiring approval. I'd like to invite Councillor Bevan, Cabinet Member with responsibility for housing, to introduce the report. Over to Councillor Bevan.
This report asks Cabinet to approve 2 key housing policies that will help us maintain safe, healthy, well-maintained homes for our tenants. The policies sit within a wider programme of improvement work that is strengthening our housing service and ensuring we have clear, consistent approaches in place to manage property safely and the condition of our homes. Approval of these documents represents another positive step in our commitment to providing quality housing services and delivering continuous improvement for residents. The recommendations are that Cabinet approves both documents, Appendix A and B, and agrees that these are published on the Council's website and shared with relevant stakeholders as part of the wider Housing Service Improvement Plan. 2, gives delegated authority to the Head of Housing, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Housing, to make amendments and update the documents as required in response to changes in legislation, operational feedback, best practice. I so move and call for a seconder.
Thank you. Councillor Langdon Morris seconding. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any questions or debate from Cabinet? No? No? Okay. Any questions from Councillor in the room? Councillor Ashdown? No. And anything from councillors online? Is that Councillor Jepson? Over to you, Mark.
It's just one of the points from the peer review we got from the strategic housing was how do we engage with residents more effectively? And I noticed, and it's nobody's fault as such, but it's disappointing that we got quite a poor response from resident associations and the resident engagement. Has Councillor Bevan got any ideas of how we can perhaps improve that so we do start to get better engagement from them? Thank you.
Yes, this was one of the focuses on the peer review, and we've taken on board some of the suggestions. We've got a tenants board, I think it's this week, which I'll be attending. It's a slow process to get people engaged, but we're determined to get this engagement done and focused on it. No particular bright ideas, but we're trying everything and see what happens.
I'm sure Councillor Bevan meant to mention the app that's had over 50,000 downloads. So we have a route to communicate with a decent chunk of the population of East Suffolk now, albeit the app needs some work in order to kind of communicate directly with housing tenants, but it would be possible in the future. So it's an option. Councillor Bevan is smiling about the missed opportunity there. Anyway, any other? I don't think. Councillor Byatt, Peter, you've got a question finally.
Yeah, yes, for this one. Yeah, thank you. On page 51 of the report, it refers to homes must provide core facilities and services. It mentions flats and it mentions houses, but I am aware that we do have at least one East Suffolk HMO. So what are the required minimal requirements for an HMO in terms of reasonable states of repair and what's acceptable in terms of what's provided? Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to refer to the officers on this, but basically the requirements are just the same in terms of room sizes and that sort of thing, conditions like damp and mold and so on. So there's no actual difference in terms of where. So is anybody online, Heather?
Yeah, I'm online, David. I'm happy to take that question. So we as an organisation publish a standard around what we expect houses of multiple occupation to meet in line with statutory obligations. Now, as we do own our own HMO, we don't actually have to apply for a licence. It's an anomaly within legislation because you can't enforce against yourself. However, we do ensure that our HMO adheres to the same quality standards. And that is a published document on our website. And so we do make sure that it meets the requirements and that we don't provide anything less than what we'd enforce against.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Chair.
While you're there, Heather, Perhaps you can confirm Councillor Ashton's comment about the usefulness of the app. Just point out that our tenants have been able to contact us through our own app on housing services a long time before this app was invented. Can you confirm that, please?
We have the website My Home that residents can apply to use, which they can manage their things like their rent accounts through, and we're trying to encourage more online repairs reporting as well.
Excellent. We will end the app wars now. Thank you, Heather. Any other questions at all, or should we move to a vote? Who seconded? I can't remember. Did I? Yeah, Councillor Langdon Morris. Anything to say? Councillor Bevan, anything in summing up? In which case, to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous again. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Item 8, East Suffolk Council's Food and Health and Safety Service Plan 2026 to 2028. I'd like to invite Councillor Candy, Cabinet Member with responsibility for community health, to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader. This is the introduction to the Food and Health and Safety Service Plan that you've all read for 2026 to 2028. East Suffolk Council is committed to protecting and improving the health, safety and well-being of everyone who lives, works, visits and conducts business within the district. This service plan, which is required by the Food Standards Agency and the Health and Safety Executive, sets out how East Suffolk Council's food and safety team, the Suffolk Coastal Port Health Authority and the Corporate Health and Safety team will deliver their statutory responsibilities and strategic priorities during the period 2026 to 2028. The services covered by this plan play a vital role in safeguarding public health, supporting economic prosperity and maintaining confidence in the district's food, workplace and import control systems. From ensuring food sold to consumers is safe, to investigating serious workplace incidents, monitoring imported products at some of the country's busiest ports, and supporting the health and safety of the council's workforce. These teams collectively provide essential protections for residents, visitors, businesses, and the wider community. East Suffolk is home to more than 2,700 food businesses, around 5,700 workplaces, for which the council has health and safety enforcement responsibilities, and the Port of Felixstowe, the United Kingdom's largest container port. The district also hosts a diverse economy built upon agriculture, food production, tourism, hospitality, logistics, engineering, energy generation, and international trade. Effective regulation and enforcement are therefore fundamental not only to protecting public health, but also to supporting sustainable economic growth and maintaining a fair and competitive business environment. As the regulatory landscape continues to evolve, the implementation of the border target operating model, challenging patterns of international trade, increasing expectations around workplace well-being, emerging public health risks, and the forthcoming reorganisation of local government in Suffolk all present new opportunities and challenges. At the same time, our services must continue to respond to significant reactive demands, including food incidents, infectious disease investigations, workplace accidents, major events, imported food enforcement, and emerging legislative requirements. This service plan demonstrates how East Suffolk Council will continue to adopt a proportionate, risk-based and intelligence-led approach to regulation. Resources will be focused on areas of greatest risk while maintaining strong support for compliant businesses and organisations. Through education advice, partnership working and, where necessary, formal enforcement action, the Council seeks to achieve high levels of compliance while fostering positive relationships with businesses and stakeholders. By setting out our priorities, resources, service demands and performance measures This document provides a clear framework for the delivery of food safety, health and safety, port health and corporate health and safety services over the next 2 years. It demonstrates our ongoing commitment to protecting public health, supporting responsible business growth, and ensuring East Suffolk remains a safe, healthy, and prosperous place for all. Do you want me to read? We're just noting this, Chair.
Just, yes, so I think you still need to read the recommendations that we, 1, 2, 3 and 4 there.
Okay,
Thank you.
so it is recommended that Cabinet 1 notes the performance against the service plan for 25-26. 2, considers and comments on the service plan for 26-28. 3, recommends that full council approves the service plan for 26-28. And 4, authorises the Head of Environmental Services and Port Health, in consultation with the Cabinet member with responsibility for community health, to make any presentation or typographical amendments to the service plan prior to it being published. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a seconder, please? Councillor Packard. Are there any questions or debate from Cabinet? Councillor Langdon Morris.
Just really, it's so important. Thank you. It's a great document. I met the head of service today, and she sort of described how the team is now almost at full capacity. They managed to hire, which I think is brilliant news, Councillor. The sanitary phytosanitary standards demonstrated in here are so important. I can't state it, especially that picture of the mozzie on page 98, and this hot weather that we're experiencing. Also, the head of service mentioned the Sizewell C effect on the number of businesses growing in our district and how much extra effort that takes, and some of the challenges they're facing with the provision of hygienic services in restaurants. So, yeah, congratulations. It's really good. Thank you.
Well, we'll take that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No, it doesn't look like it. Councillor Ashdown, anything from you?
Just a quick one for there. What steps do we take where we're looking at premises requiring improvements? And yes, on your report there, East Suffolk food hygiene rating 31st March 26. You've got 2 improvement required 20 units, major improvements 20 units, and urgent improvements another 3. What steps are we taking to ensure that those are brought up to standard quickly?
Thank you very much. So when a business doesn't meet the required standards, they're given a certain amount of time to get up to standard, and we never like to shut a business down. So we ask them how they're going to reach the standards that we need them to get to, and then we do a re-inspection of them, and then a secondary re-inspection of them. So we work with the business. We don't ever want to shut them down. And they just have to comply to what we need to. I think if James is online, he might want to expand on that for me.
Have we got James?
Hello, I'm here. Sorry, I'm having some IT issues. Apologies for that. So as Councillor Candy says, we have a range of options when we're dealing with businesses that don't meet the standard. If they're presenting an imminent risk, then we take immediate enforcement action. And those sanctions include serving improvement notices, or in worst case scenarios, closing businesses down if they present an imminent risk. For those that don't come up to standard but aren't presenting an imminent risk, then we work with them over a period of 3 months to try to get them up to a generally satisfactory standard. And we give them guidance and advice and make a number of revisits until we're confident that they're back on track and do everything that they need to do to comply with the regulations and the guidance, and that they're producing safe food.
Thank you. I think I can see Councillor Jepson, you've got your hand up, so over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Having previously had this under my care, I think they do a fantastic job, and thank you for a very comprehensive report. I just wonder for them, did the report need to be as long? Because there's a huge amount of work in here, which is very informative, but it must have taken the team quite a lot of time to prepare it. So do they need to do one as long to give them time to do other things?
Thank you for those compliments. I mean, this is a 2-year report. You probably noticed, and I think it does cover the changes that have happened. And I think it's a great report. I think if you actually read it, it does bite down into the minutiae of why we're doing what we're doing. So, does it need to be as long? I don't know. I quite liked it. That's a personal thing, isn't it?
No, I'd just come back, Paul. I have read it, Councillor Candy, and I think it's a really good report. But as I say, I'm just trying, it's not criticism because they do a great job. I was just trying to think it takes a lot of time to do a report like that. And is there a way we can try and reduce the demand for such a report and having them out there doing the key roles? That was all. But it's not criticism of the team at all or the report.
We'll take that away and look at it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair point. We do, as a council, produce quite long reports, and if we could get the key points across with less effort spent, that might be a good thing. But we've also got AI that potentially helps some bits of it now as well. So who knows? Well, yeah, no, you can't win, can you? Okay. Any other? I do believe I can see Councillor Ewart.
Then Councillor Byatt.
Councillor Ewart. Good evening, Councillor Ewart. Question from you.
Good evening, and thank you very much. Councillor Candy, as you know, I really enjoyed working with you in this department, and I just wanted a little bit of an update. Given the current better recycling crisis, where does the council stand? And has it applied maybe to the Health and Safety Executive to report itself, given the crisis that we have on our streets? Thank you.
Are you talking about the new gaming act that's coming in?
No, I'm talking about the better recycling programme that is currently affecting many of the villages that I look after. And I just wondered, this department would obviously be sort of marking its own homework. I wondered where we stood in all of that. Thank you.
I would have to defer to James, I think, on that.
Thank you. Yes. So we are obviously, as a council, bound by the health and safety regulations as we act as enforcers for those businesses in our district. We have to comply by the same standard. So we would be subject to making reports if things had gone wrong or there were particular accidents that were reportable through to the Health and Safety Executive.
Are you therefore saying that nothing has been reported in volume from any of the catering services that they use in the facility?
I'm not aware of any particular issues. My colleague Fee Johnson, who deals with the corporate health and safety side of things, I think is online. So I'll just invite her to come in and just correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm certainly not aware of anything.
The reason I ask is that even the East Suffolk services were out on the high street this morning with an officer who was checking the streets and the bins, which alerted me to the fact that we've obviously got a problem. I know that it was a rodent issue in Saxmundham. Thank you.
I can answer that if you would like me to.
Sorry, V, I don't think we caught what you said then.
Do we want to answer?
Yeah, no, feel free if you wish to contribute.
Just for clarity, there is no requirement to report anything to the Health and Safety Executive in relation to, for example, rodent activity resulting from any of the waste issues. If there were any accidents or ill health to staff as a result of collecting that waste, that would be something that East Suffolk Services would be reporting directly. It wouldn't be something that East Suffolk Council would be reporting. So at the moment, I'm not aware of anything that I would need to report to the Health and Safety Executive in relation to ill health or accident relating from the work activity.
Thank you. I think we also had a question from Councillor Byatt.
Yes, thank you. It's under corporate health and safety. There's a comment. It's page 21 of the report, where excuse me, that there's a health and safety knowledge gap, and that obviously that needs to be filled or caught up with. It's really, do we have the resources to make sure that that knowledge gap is filled as soon as possible for new employees? Thank you.
I think V, you could answer that better than me. Thank you.
If I understand the question, it's about how we're addressing the knowledge gap for new starter staff and making sure that staff can actually both regulate health and safety, but also staff within the organisation stay safe. Is that correct?
Thank you. Thank you, V. Yes.
There are a number of things that we've been doing from a perspective of regulatory services, which James leads with, but we have been doing a lot of shadowing work, knowledge sharing, and reviewing of people's officers' activities to make sure that they are both learning and also being competent in what they were doing. So far as our own staff is concerned, there have been a number of initiatives that we've started, such as new starters have to have an in-person health and safety induction with a member of my team. It's an hour-long session that they do, and they're supposed to do that within their first month. They can't progress through their probation process and get into full-time employment, permanent employment, until they've completed that. So we have that in place, and we're looking to launch a similar thing for managers to make sure that they can pick up with their staff.
Thank you very much. And I should have said in the initial stage to Councillor Candy, echoing what Councillor Jepp said, thank you for a very, very thorough document.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. I think that's it for questions. I can't see any other hands up. No. Okay. In which case, I'm not doing very well with my seconders. Councillor Packard, a second. Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that, we do have Felixstowe Port in East Suffolk, and it is, a huge container port. So these reports actually are very, very badly, they are needed. And obviously the part of the report is for the rest of the county, the rest of East Suffolk, but in particular Felixstowe Port, that, we have a huge responsibility there.
Thank you. And then Councillor Candy, anything you want to say in summing up?
No, I think it's a very valid point from Councillor Packard, about the report in itself. It's not just for this chamber, it is for anybody else who may not have the little snippets of information that we receive throughout the year to look at. So, yeah, thank you for that. That's a very good point.
Thank you. Okay, in which case to the vote, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. Right, moving on to item 9, which is the 2025-26 Outturn Financial Performance Report. I'd like to invite Councillor Vince Langdon-Morris, Cabinet Member with responsibility for resources and value for money, to introduce the report.
Right, thanks, Chair. I'm going to read the briefing notes. It's quite important. And this sums it up quite nicely, Chair. I'm pretty sure that these draft accounts are on the council website and they're open to comment. So please do, people out there, look at them and comment. Draft Outturn Report 2025-26. This is a brief summary. This report provides an overview of the council's draft outturn position for 2025-26 in respect of the general fund, reserves, housing revenue account, the capital programme and the collection fund. The draft outturn position on the general fund is a surplus of 1.746 million against an anticipated use of reserves of 5.345 million to balance the original budget approved in February 2025. This represents an improved position of £7.091 million on the approved budget. The output surplus has been transferred to the budget stabilisation reserve. The overall position captures favourable variances such as an additional 2.644 million of net interest from financing and investment income, and you can thank geopolitics for that. Because we have an investment portfolio, this has performed more than we anticipated, due to interest rates remaining high and a 2.8 million unbudgeted pension exit credit, which we could not have foreseen. That was windfall. These contributed to mitigating continuing pressures on the general fund, such as the housing benefit subsidy loss of circa £1 million due to increases in temporary accommodation, reductions in funding inflation, and the high cost of living. As at the 31st of March 2026, the total on the Council's earmarked reserves stand at £47.02 million. This is an increase of 2.85 million on the 31st of March 2025 position, partially due to the 1.746 million in-year surplus on the general fund. The HRA reported a 44,000 surplus position, which is a positive movement of 5,000 against the revised budget. However, the movement was a planned use of reserves to ensure the HRA working balance remains at the required 10% of income raised in the year, excluding interest income and grants and contributions. Finally, the General Fund Capital Programme reported a 19.275 million underspend. In my experience as the Cabinet Member for Finance, this has happened year on year. So, of which was largely due to project spend behind schedule. Underspends on capital projects will be considered for carried forward as part of the 2027-28 budget setting process, including updating the timing profile of budgets. The outturn position will feed into the 2026-27 review and update of the medium-term financial strategy, the capital programme and the HRA. Areas of focus for 2026-27 are detailed on page 23 of Appendix A and include local government, funding reform, temporary accommodation demand, and the 12.3 million budget gap for 2027-28 as reported in February 2026. I'll read the recommendations, Chair. Cabinet is recommended to note the Council's draft outturn position for 2025-26, together with reserves and balances as of the 31st of March 2026. Approve the General Fund revenue budget, carry forward requests above 0.03 million as set out in paragraphs 1.5 of Appendix A, a total of £1.607 million. Approve the HRA revenue budget, carry forward requests above £0.3 million as set out in the paragraph 3.3 of Appendix A, a total of £0.211 million. To note the area of focus for budget monitoring in 2026-27 and a budget setting for 2027-28. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I ask for a seconder? I think that was Councillor Whitelock. Thank you. Are there any questions or debate from members of the Cabinet? No? Just add one as a comment really, which is I think in our 26-27 budget process, I think we made sure that our capital programme was far more likely to be delivered, because I think it was an element of previous years where it was more of a wish list than a something that we had a reasonable degree of certainty about being delivered. What that does mean, of course, is that it's unlikely to, the financial position is unlikely to improve as much due to non-delivery of capital projects. So as we get to the outturn, as we've done here, and as the year progresses, we're not likely to see such a reduction in the amount of money we're going to spend in 26-27. Which does mean then for our MTFS that those forecasts for future years, which will inevitably come down in terms of those deficits, they're not going to come down by as much as they have done this year in all likelihood. So we have to bear that in mind as we go into the budgeting for next year. Things are getting really tough for us. The government settlement leaves us in a position where frankly, if we weren't having LGR happening, we'd be taking very tough decisions as this council. In all likelihood, I think what we're probably doing is not doing anything too drastic, and passing on a challenging funding situation to the successor councils, who will also be inheriting a very challenging funding situation for the county councils, county council. So it's difficult times for local government, as we know. Anyway, not really a question, more of a comment. I don't think we've got questions from cabinet members. No. Okay, Councillor Ashdown, anything from you?
Yes, thank you, Paul. Just looking at the 25-26 outbuild report, where you got the HRA capital, I noticed looking down there that we hadn't put very much money into insulation and also for solar panels, which is something I thought we would be very much involved in doing.
I'm going to transfer to Councillor Bevan. The HRA is really his speciality.
Yeah, it's I'll hand out to the accounts to the officers in a minute, but we are doing a lot. As you know, we've got a £12 million retrofit programme, and I'm meeting the new chap at Melvin who's running it this week, and we're starting to roll that out now. So it's happening. The solar panels was a programme we had earlier on, which was a one-off programme, but the retrofit programme is £12 million, so it's going ahead, I can assure you.
Thank you. Did you want to ask officers to contribute to that? Or okay. Well, it was Councillor Ashdown's question. I think it was related to solar panels.
Insulation.
Yeah, and insulation. Yeah.
So yeah, Warm Homes, as David has said, has been matched with our existing HRA budget that was allocated to support property and asset renovation. Includes insulation, includes renewables, includes air source heat pumps for both traditional homes and hard to heat. That we actually had a highlight report on that today, and it's being delivered well, and we have partners delivering against it. If there's a specific matter around insulation, I can take that away, but broadly they are meeting their deliverables, and Des and Nez are happy with the progress.
Thank you. I think I can see, is that Councillor Byatt? Peter?
Councillor Jepson and Councillor Byatt.
Okay, Peter first, thank you.
Age before beauty. Thank you. It's very kind of you. It's just a little bit forensic, but something was mentioned about the page 194 disabled facilities grants, and actually less was paid out than we received in grants. Does that mean that we need to be working harder to get people to take up the disabilities grants that are on offer, or am I misunderstanding that comment? Thank you.
Yeah, this is the grants that we really were not shifting out before, and we've massively increased that. I think you'll find we are actually using all facilities, and we have pushed it further. We've reduced some of the targeting requirements on how much people can earn before they get the grant, so we are pushing that. So you can be assured that we're doing a lot better than we were.
Thank you, David. That's brilliant. Cheers.
Thank you. And then Councillor Jepson.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. It was again a little bit forensic as well. It's not necessarily the detail of the areas, but I noticed page 202. He's now trying to find it again. We went from kitchen programme and responsive from an overall original budget of 250,000 to 674, and windows and doors from 51 to 777,000. Now they're significant increases. Where will we be able to get the money from, and did that impact on any other parts of the budgets elsewhere? Thank you.
I'll have to come back to you on that one. It could well be that following the survey we've done on houses, we found some things that we need to do, so that's why we've had to put some more money in there. But let me come back to you for the details on that.
Okay, 202. Thank you, David.
Do you want me to just come back to that? Because
Yeah,
I think
please do.
David is absolutely right. So because of the regulatory notice around decency of our stock, we've increased stock condition surveys, and we've done a huge amount of those. I think we're now at about 85%. As a result of those, we've indicated there's a lot of repair, asset management and stock condition work that needs to take place: kitchens, bathrooms, roofs, series of other improvements that are mandated upon us. And so that's why that number has jumped so significantly. Amber, as part of the HRA overview, has drawn upon reserves to make sure that we are able to cover those. And I believe the last Cabinet or full Council signed off that asset management strategy, which oversees all of that work.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I've done it again. I can't remember who seconded. It was Councillor Whitelove. Would you like to say anything?
No, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And then Councillor Bevan, anything to say in summing up? No? Okay, in which case to the vote then. All those in favour? Unanimous. Great, thank you. On to our next item. Councillor Daly was going to be presenting this on behalf of himself and Councillor Noble. Councillor Daly, we've heard that Councillor Daly isn't going to make it, so I am going to attempt to present this rather than defer it, because I think we just need to get it through Cabinet. So I will present it. You will probably know I'm normally fairly self-sufficient in presenting reports to Cabinet. I'm not going to be as self-sufficient this time, so I may call on a bit of assistance from our officers. But basically, we initially produced a environmental impact strategy back in the early days of this administration. It was updated in July 2024. This is a further update. The update includes progress on the projects that have been delivered and are being delivered. It also lists over 110 projects that are planned going forwards under 8 priorities. The updated strategy also includes an expanded section under the Restoring Ecosystems and Biodiversity area. Rather than me do a bad job on trying to explain it any further, I'm going to ask Nick Khan if he would like to add anything, and he may refer to Paul Mackey as well, who's sitting next to him.
Thanks, Chair. That was a really helpful introduction. I will hand over to Paul, who is the author of this document and will cover it much better than I can. But as you said, Chair, this is hopefully a really positive document that reflects all the hard work. Officers, not just Paul and the sort of climate change team, the environment team, but all the officers in various services across the council. It's a bit of a combined effort, this one, to produce the work under so many different themes which come under this environmental impact theme of our Direction 2028. As you say, over 100 different work streams, and we tried to set out, because it is another one of these long documents, and hopefully for a good reason, because there's so much in there. But in the first few pages, hopefully members have had a chance to just see some of the achievements, what's been delivered. We thought that'd be a really helpful addition, just to kind of be really clear right from the sort of outset. What have we actually done? What are we doing? So members can see that and hopefully celebrate some of that success. So yeah, I'll hand over to Paul, who might be able to cover a little bit more than me. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Yes, I guess the key thing about this report is that a lot of this work goes on behind the scenes, might be buried in other documents, and there's not often the chance to really showcase the work that goes on addressing climate change, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, tackling the biodiversity challenge, and other sustainability issues as well. Because every single team is involved in delivering all those activities and projects. So it's really an opportunity to showcase, shine a light on the great work that's going on, but also just to give an update on some of the status of some of these projects. Some of them are multi-year, sometimes multi-decadal projects. Some of them were delivered under previous administrations, and this administration has decided to take on the baton and continue the work. And some of them are brand new projects. And some of them will go on well beyond this organisation as well, we hope. So it's an opportunity to celebrate success, report on status, say where things are going well, but also where we're finding things challenging as well. But crucially as well, we're really relying on collaborations with other organisations, statutory bodies, the other Suffolk local authorities we work really closely with, and the amazing voluntary organisations and NGOs that deliver work on nature and climate in East Suffolk. So really, yeah, it's that opportunity to showcase the administration and members felt was important that we publish an update and share those successes, but also so the public can hopefully, and residents can hopefully find it relatively straightforward to find information on areas that are important to them and how we're getting on and how those projects are progressing now, but also things that we plan to do in the near future as well. And as mentioned as well, we have new duties when it comes to biodiversity, so biodiversity net gain and other areas. So we've slotted that in as well, so members of the public can see what we're doing to deliver those duties. Just the final thing I was going to say is a lot of this stuff is non-statutory, it's discretionary. We're doing it because this administration has chosen to do it, and because we know our residents ask us to do it, and they see these issues as being really important to them, and so that's why we've published it at the moment. This time.
Thank you, Paul. You've very rightly pointed out about how this is a team effort, and it is indeed. You know, many of us, in fact, most of us sitting around this table have probably got things in here that are the responsibility of our portfolio. I was certainly glancing through and looking at the property in place ones just now. But Paul, you personally, you know, deserve a lot of thanks for all the work you've done on this over the years. So I'd personally like to thank you, you know, and everyone else as well. But you deserve a great deal of gratitude for everything you do. Thank you. Right, I should read out the recommendation, which is the Cabinet, having considered the updated Our Direction 2028 Environmental Impact Strategy as set out in Appendix A, approves its adoption and delivery. Can I ask for a seconder, please? Councillor Whitelock, thank you. Is there any debate, any questions or debate from Cabinet? Councillor Langdon-Morris?
Yeah. Chair, when you read this, it's just gives you an idea of just how much in one document we're involved in.
Yeah.
There is some information there about solar panels, Councillor Ashdown, something like 1,800 solar panels in East Suffolk through this scheme in Suffolk, which is 5,700 panels. So just there's some info there. But this is really great. Thank you. I'll dip into this later.
Thank you. Any other questions or debate from Cabinet? Councillor Candy?
I think I have a very similar comment to Councillor Langdon-Morris, is that it's all in this document. So I want to thank you all very much for that. And I do feel as a councillor that people are asking more and more and more about climate change. And when you said our residents asked for this, I do believe they're asking for it more and more. So I feel this is a document that we can more widely disseminate, or sections of it, whenever we get the opportunity, because we're not alone here, you know, and our residents are asking for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else from Cabinet? No? Okay, Councillor Ashton?
Just an observation, really. Do we know what the impact is on our poorer regions of this report, i.e. some of the areas of Lowestoft which are in very, very serious conditions of deprivation? What effect is this report having on their livelihoods?
Sure. Councillor Whitelock might be able to answer this.
Yeah, I can help you with one part of that, and that is the investment that we're making in leisure centres to make them sustainable long term. The changes that have been made in terms of insulation, heat pumps, solar panels, and keeping the leisure centres in really good condition mean that areas within reach of the leisure centres do get a really good service and opportunity to improve their health, improve their well-being, and that I think is a very valuable thing that we're doing, and I'm really proud that that leisure centres are in my portfolio, and proud of the team that have worked so hard on this refurbishment and decarbonisation programme. And for families that don't have significant sums of money to spend, which actually I think the leisure centre is a very good value, but for a family that can't afford to go to the leisure centre, there are all sorts of schemes, free swimming lessons, holiday activity funds, all sorts of things happening in leisure centres to try and encourage families and children particularly into the health and well-being that they offer.
Thank you. I'm not sure if Nick or Paul wish to add anything. Nick?
Thanks, Chair. I can supplement that. Yeah, Councillor Whitelock's quite correct in leisure, but there's a few other areas, and Paul might be able to add further. But obviously, you'll be aware, Councillor Ashdown, good work around transport and buzz about, which you've heavily supported, which has been fantastic, serving the communities of Lowestoft and helping people get out of their cars. Got a forthcoming tree strategy, which is kind of all encompassing, but one part of it is to get more trees into urban sort of tree depleted areas, and one of those is Lowestoft, which would be really good news for the town in terms of visual amenity and as well as climate resilience. And the bigger one, and under David's portfolio, is housing retrofit of insulation and other such measures, which most of our stock is obviously in the Lowestoft area, so that will help reduce bills as well as the environmental positive impacts of that. But Paul, I don't know if you have any more.
Just the only things I'd add is, so our poorest families in the district are those who will be most affected by the impacts of climate change, but also loss of biodiversity and green space. So as Nick mentioned, the tree strategy that's going to be published hopefully later this year will really target those urban areas, but also projects like Nature at Work, championed by Councillor Noble, is about creating wild areas in the urban zone as well as rural areas as well, to bring some nature to our more deprived communities. But also, the report talks about the amazing work of the housing team that we've heard about around decarbonising homes, so getting people on homes onto renewables rather than volatile fossil fuel prices. But also some of the crucial stuff around flood risk as well. So Lowestoft is an area of flood risk. So the report also talks about the amazing work of the coastal team in tackling flood risk challenges in Lowestoft and the surrounding areas. So yeah, it's well addressed, but it's something that is also highlighted for future work to make sure our most deprived areas of the district are taken into account when prioritising work on climate and nature.
Thank you. And thank you for the question. Councillor Jepson, question for you.
Thank you, Chair. Some of the work, a lot of the work that goes on is superb, and a lot of the strategic work, decarbonisation of the pools, the work they're doing on the coast, we can see that is going to make an impact, and I fully support that. And in some respects, I support the whole document, but I wonder if we should do more assessing of our value for money. And I'm looking at some of the relatively smaller programmes, Field to Fork, Growing Space grants, giving away 1,000 packets of vegetable, herb, wildflower seeds, the Growing Space programs, that particular area, that while it's good to do and the impact might be quite low, have we done any work? And I accept that we start the Field to Fork, and I don't know if we did a proper evaluation as to whether we were getting value for money. And I think there's some of these programs, are we certain that we're getting value for money on what we're providing? It's nice in principle, but are we getting that value for money? If not, have we done any work to establish if we are getting value for money? Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I think we've got a few people that want to chip in with some partial answers, I suspect. Councillor Whitelock, you had your hand up a moment ago.
Yes, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we do data on Field to Fork and the other programmes, and actually it's amazingly successful. The numbers of families and children, because they're largely accessed through school, who start growing their own food at home is surprising, and it's clearly something they find rewarding. And of course, it's more than just being aware of how plants grow and that it's healthy to eat vegetables, but it's also a long-term interest in the environment and the world around them. So I'll be very happy to share those numbers with you, Councillor Jepson. It's actually heartening to see how much that's been embraced, to the point where I believe that the RHS is adopting that scheme as well. They've been so impressed with the impact it's having.
Thank you. And then Councillor Langdon Morris also wanted to
just to say, Councillor Jepson, under the procurement strategy, I'll give you a bit more information on the social value side, value for money.
So yeah, and then I mean, for me personally, it's always a reasonable challenge. Are we getting value for money? We should always be thinking like that. And obviously I I outlined the budget position we face in future years, so it's even more of an issue now. But some of these are really quite hard, and it requires a bit of a judgment about whether they're really delivering benefit. I mean, as Councillor Whitelock just described, the potentially life-changing benefit that might have for, I don't know how many, 10, 20, 30 kids in the district, could be enormous in terms of the benefit, So as well as the more obvious, what the take up is and what the interest is, some of these things we do are can have really large impacts on individuals without us even knowing, I think, and we do have to be quite careful not to think of value for money entirely about money. It's in the roundest sense, what are the benefits? But then we also have got to be tight with money, haven't we? So it's a reasonable challenge, I think, and I think it's something that I'm seeing that our officers nod. It's something that I think we're all looking at the moment. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Switch on, Chair. So under our direction 2028, you'll notice there's a mention of the Greenlight Trust. I did a social value study on them, Councillor Jepson. I was on the page a minute ago. It's if you type Greenlight Trust in there. The opening ceremony for the building is tomorrow at I think 1 o'clock. I think you're aware. Castan build, it's local build. Net zero, I think net zero cost. I think the social value study showed that for every pound we invested, we're getting an £11 return per year. That was a study using a social value software. So, yep, we are working on these things, value for money and also social value. Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks for the question.
Grateful.
Thank you. I don't think we've got any other questions online, have we? In which case, yeah, I've done it yet again. Councillor, who seconded, Councillor Whitelock, anything you would like to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that sometimes as we're wading our way through pages and pages of emails, it's difficult to remember quite what our ambitions were. But when we see a document like this, we do understand. And I'm particularly pleased that this council is very aware of the need to get to net zero and how any council can go through the summer that we're going through now or last year and think that abandoning net zero ambitions is a good idea is quite beyond me. So yes, I'm very happy to see this and keep up the good work. Thank you very much, everybody that's involved.
Thank you. And carrying on that note, there should be vigorous debate about how we tackle climate change, and there should be differences of opinion and so on. But it's totally unacceptable to claim it's a hoax. It clearly is not a hoax. It's something that needs tackling. And I think we are doing our bit here as a council, both in terms of climate change and the environmental crisis that we face. So I'm really pleased to be able to present this today, albeit with a bit of assistance. Shall we move to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Right, thank you very much. Item 11, back to a bit of finance now. I'd like to invite Councillor Langdon Morris. In fact, sorry, let me just introduce it. This is the 2026-27 Q1 Financial Performance Report. So I'd like to invite Councillor Langdon Morris, Cabinet Member with responsibility for resources and value for money, to introduce the report.
Thanks, Chair. This report provides an overview of the Council's financial performance, comparing the forecast outturn expenditure and income position as at Q1, April to May 2026, to the approved General Fund budget for 2026-27 for both revenue and capital. This report provides a summary of the housing revenue accounts revenue and set capital position as at the end of May 2026, which includes a forecast position of reserves. This report summarises details of the key risks highlighted within 2026-27, which may lead to future General Fund and HRA financial challenges over the duration of the medium-term financial strategy. Recommendations that Cabinet 1 notes the Council's forecast outturn financial position as at Q1, April to May 2026 against the approved General Fund budget. 2, notes approves budget change variations following the original 2026-27 budget approval in February 2026 and the impact on the General Fund for the year. And finally, 3, notes the areas of focus for the current year and medium-term financial strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Packard, thank you. Any questions or debate from Cabinet? No? Okay. Councillor Ashdown, any questions or comments from you?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one quick comment. Looking at the vacancy analysis, I see we're still down more in the planning team than anywhere else within the authority.
I can come back to you on that, Councillor Packard.
Yeah, funnily enough, we had a financial report today on that. And what we've been doing is we are short of senior planners in particular, is we've been taking on self-employed people at quite a high cost, I have to say. But it is difficult. We can get people coming in at the bottom, straight out of university. It's a long training session. I think it's 7 years to become a planner. But the experienced people we're struggling with. So we've had to go to self-employed people. If I could just come back to you, Mark, there, it would be nice if some of those self-employed senior planners actually met some of the members.
Sorry.
It would be nice if some of those self-employed senior planners actually met some of the members.
Sure. Okay.
I'll mention that to the person in charge.
Thank you. Councillor Bevan.
Yeah, this is a legacy issue that in the last 15 years we haven't trained up planners, and that's why we haven't got the intermediate planners coming through, and we've really got to start the whole process again. So the head of planning is well aware of this problem.
Yeah, I mean, I was shown today, Councillor Langdon Morris was with me, a list of people undergoing training, at various levels, planning, and there are about 15, 20 people like that. But what Ben Walnuff said is that next year that they'll all be qualified. We haven't got people coming up behind there. So it's an ongoing situation, and we're well aware of the situation.
Thank you. Any questions online? I think that's Councillor Byatt.
Yeah, thank you. On the back of that, bearing in mind that we will hopefully, fingers crossed, be going to work with our colleagues slightly to the west, do they suffer the same problem with planning teams, or should we be talking to them about looking forward to the next year or two, whether we can do some combined preemptive recruiting to make sure that when we have our new unitary authority, we do have enough planners? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't honestly know the answer to that, but what I do know is that it's not just an East Suffolk problem with senior planners. They can move around now and get paid more by moving around, and that is a particular problem. But I'm sure other councils in Suffolk will have the same sort of problems.
Thank you, Mark.
I think, Peter, I think this is a national issue. I don't think we're any more exposed than anyone else is, really. Obviously, we have the disruption of local government reorganisation, which might make it challenging in the very short term to attract new people. But hopefully, once we've got the unitaries up and running, things will settle down and improve. Planning isn't going away. I mean, planning committees might have a more limited role, but planners are still going to be needed. So, yeah, hopefully there's a reasonably certain future for the people we've got and people we might want to attract. This was actually originally a budget item. It's turned into a planning staffing issue. Are there any other comments or questions related to the quarter one performance report? I don't think so. In which case, I was trying to remember who. Councillor Packard, I think you seconded this, didn't you? Would you like to comment?
Yeah, no, I think, I feel that we're in safe hands in our finance team. I had my cabinet meeting today on finance, and they're well aware of the situation. And I do think it's been a good idea, which was something that I was pushing, that cabinet members do go over the budgets for the future with their senior officers. You know, we all got to understand what's going on, and I could only answer that question today about planners because it happened today.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, I recommend, and I think we are in safe hands at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Langdon Morris, anything in summing up?
I've forgotten my comment, Chair, so it can't be that important, so no.
Thank you. Right, all those in favour? We're unanimous again, thank you. Right, item 12, this is the procurement strategy 2024 to 2028, second progress report. I'd like to invite Councillor Langdon Morris, Cabinet member with responsibility for resources and value for money, to introduce the report.
Thanks, Chair. The purpose of this report is to submit the procurement strategy 2024-28 second progress report for 2025-26, Appendix A, for consideration by Cabinet. That Cabinet notes the submitted second progress report for 2025-2026. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And a seconder, and I'm going to remember this time. I know it was Councillor Bevan. It was very memorable, so hopefully I'll remember. Any questions or debate from Cabinet? Yep, please do.
Well, I'd like to congratulate Amy and her team. This is a really good document. East Suffolk Services provides Great Yarmouth, South Norfolk and Broadland district councils with procurement services. They approached us. We didn't approach them. We do that because we've got a great procurement team, and we generate funds from that and provide staffing positions. The audit was completed by Eastern Internal Audit Services of all the councils, and we received a substantial level of assurance, the highest grading, and no significant control weaknesses. So I think that's a really great success from Amy and her team. This document is short. It does, as Councillor Jepson pointed out, it does show examples of value for money and social value. And Councillor Byatt, a couple of years back, 2.5 years ago, pushed me on social value. We're slowly starting to generate social value output, which I'll get to you soon. And there are some listed in this document, if you work through it, on the social value efforts by this team. Also, the ethical that they've been working on, ethical procurement. So I'd like to congratulate the team. This is a timely thing, and definitely with LGR moving forwards, where we have joint service provision for councils, this might be something we can consider in the future, where one council provides procurement services like we're doing here. So thank you, procurement team. Very good document.
Thank you. Thank you to the team as well. Thank you. Councillor Bevan.
I never thought I'd get excited by procurement, but I did have a little dive into procurement on one situation recently, and whilst the legal point is absolutely vital, that it's transparent and there's nothing underhand at how we do it, it must also be effective. We must get value for money, and we must get the quality we want. We must get what we really want there. So I did look at using, we had to get a scope together to advertise procurement. I used it looking at AI, and it produced quite a good scope. And I thought that's quite handy, we'd have to pay someone to do that. And then it occurred to me that probably the people who are tendering are probably using AI to search all the websites for these, and they're probably picking them up. And they may well use AI to do their response to the scope. So in the end, you've got AI talking to each other in the process. And the only thing at the end that makes the difference is the people who select the winning bid. And while it's extremely important that it should be objective and transparent, the way things are assessed, at the end of the day, it's a bit like using AI in the health service, where you get the radiologist is done, analysed by AI. All the facts are put there in front of the doctor, but the GP makes the decision. There's a human decision at the end. extremely important when we're assessing bids that it's not just totting up in scores, that people, the gut feeling in a way, you're allowed to have a gut feeling, because I think it's important, and that's why it's important in the health service that the GP still has the gut feeling when they diagnose, and it's not all down to the AI. So I think there's something to be aware of there when AI creeps into this sort of things, that we need to put the human gut feeling in there, because at the end of the day, our job as politicians is to say what is more important. We've only got a certain limited amount of money. We're going to spend a bit more money on this and a bit less on that. And AI can't tell us how to do that. So I really appreciate the importance of compliance and the legal aspects. We still need room for human gut feeling and political input, I think.
Councillor Bevan, I'd just like to say on page 5-6 of this report, you see in August 2025 and also February 26, this team hosted over 45 organisations. They're mostly local businesses. The idea is to get local businesses made aware of the procurement opportunities and service provision that we have within our council. And it was, and they engaged on a one-to-one basis with these procurement people. So I think, take your AI point, but I think they are making those human relationships as well, because they're important too. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else from Cabinet? No. Councillor Ashdown?
Yes, thank you, Paul. It's just nice to see that something set up by the previous administration with procurement strategy has been taken forward, and it's now in the situation that it is now. It's nice to see that the work we did beforehand has been continued.
I think it's always worth us acknowledging the good work of the previous administration. So thank you. I think I can see Councillor Byatt's got his hand up. Peter?
Yeah, thank you. This is really tremendous. You know, this is something which I think, as David talked about with AI and everything else like that, we have to be guarded. We still need to have that final decision by humans, although it's almost like talking us out of a job as councillors, when it might just need one councillor to make all the decisions that are decided by AI. But I think what was worth seeing in the document, as you pointed out, Vince, was the examples of things where we can talk about social value. And just want to refer back to all the work that was done on the Gullwing Bridge. Every time we had a report come to the committee that was overseeing that, it included social value. It included how it impacted, particularly on local businesses. And I think the more the merrier with this. And as I say, I think it's great that we're taking this on. And I actually look forward to seeing the software in action. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Councillor Byatt, if you look on here, in the document, it's page 10 of the document, last page. It's got areas of focus. One of them is to work with the policy teams to expand use of social value software and train social value champions in service areas. It's something I'm interested in, and it's slowly gaining traction. Next time I meet you, I'll brief you on some of the outputs we've got, and I'll write something up soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I say, it's excellent, an excellent resource. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions? I don't think we do. Councillor Bevan, anything you wish to add as seconder?
Yeah, just add social value. I mean, just be a cynic in a way. Sometimes social value is said, well, we employed a local plasterer. Well, of course you're going to employ a local plasterer and you count that social value. That's a bit of a cheat in my mind. And I'm particularly concerned about in terms of the scoring mechanism, when the selection is made of the winning tender, is how much is put on the price they're putting in there. So value for money is not just the lowest price, it's the best value for the money. And so we have to be careful that we don't are slave to that particular metric.
Sure, I think it's. And Councillor Langdon Morris, anything else you wish to add?
That's it. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, in which case to the vote then, all those in favour? Unanimous again. Okay, I think we're about to go into closed session, aren't we? So, exempt and confidential items. It is recommended that under section 100A, part 4 of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Candy and Councillor Packard. Thank you. We will now go into exempt session. Please can we turn off your microphones while we wait for Ali to end the live feed.
Thank you, that's ended.
Thank you. Exempt minutes. We have one set of exempt minutes to approve from the Cabinet meeting